This is me as a teenager on my first trip to Connemara in Ireland. It rained most of the time. Years passed. Now I live in Ireland, but nowhere near Connemara. I'm not sure why exactly, but I've always wanted to go back there, maybe to see if it stopped raining. Last year, I broke my leg and read this book. It's about an English woman, Hilary Brad, riding Willie Leahy's Connemara Trail in 1984. I thought, if my leg ever allows me to ride again, I'll go to Connemara with my horses. And just 11 months later, I arrived at Dartfield Equestrian Centre in Loughrea, where Willie Leahy is based these days. The plan was to follow Willie along a 5-day trail ride from Oughterard to Clifden and beyond. So, this is my bed for the first night in the canteen of the Dartfield Equestrian Centre. Apart from organising his trail rides, hunts and cross-country events, he also runs a museum at Dartfield about the history of the Irish horse, worthwhile having a look. Your first night on holidays. Night-night, guys. Big day tomorrow. Sleep tight. So, first morning, the start of the trail, and guess what? It's raining. Willie is somewhere to round up and load his horses for the trail. We are ready to go anyway, aren't we, Henry and Flora, wherever you are? Flora, hello. Oop. This year I took Henry to ride and Flora to carry the tent and food. Raindrops falling out of your mane, Henry. And my raincoat, I just discovered in the last hour that actually it's not waterproof, so I'm a bit wet already. From Loughrea, I followed Willie and his horses through the rain all the way through Galway and then on to Oughterard, where we were joined by the rest of the group. Ready to go? All right, Henry. We're at a very, very busy road here. All getting ready. And finally, we all set off, a group of 15 riders led by Willie up into the hills and bogs of East Connemara. So finally, we reached our lunch break spot. Was a huge adventure to get here. You can still see my hands shaking ever so slightly, because it was actually quite scary. And, it was tricky terrain for handling 2 horses, and all of that in the pouring rain, so I couldn't film. What started to happen about 2 kilometres into the ride was Flora's pack saddle sliding sideways. I had to get off several times to rearrange the luggage and saddle, sometimes in very steep terrain. I'm not entirely sure why this kept on happening. On our recent 2-day test ride, everything had worked perfectly. I found it very stressful to hold up everybody, the whole group. They're all having lunch over there now. And of course everybody had to wait for me. Our trail led along a steep and rocky mountain path, which regularly forced us through belly-deep boggy holes. Just before our lunch stop, we were led up along a gushing stream, and it got muddier and muddier. 2 horses got stuck and the riders came off. Luckily, I was at the back of the group and got off in time so that Henry and Flora could find their own way through that mud hole. Flora broke her breast harness in the process, and we all got covered in mud and boggy water pretty much from head to toe. Shirt. But never mind. We made it out of the boggy hole. What really cheered me up was Tim's little lunch pack he had made up for me yesterday. So, thanks, Tim. Another 2 hours ride through the rain and we arrived at our destination for the day, Malm Cross. By road, Oughterard was only 16 kilometres away, but it must have been more like 25 or 30 kilometres the way we came. It was still pouring with rain, so the horses were led into a field by the roadside. The other riders went to a hotel, and I put up camp in an old school building in the horse field. Then I went in search for drinking water, which I found in the cattle mart behind the hotel. I felt pretty alien stumbling into this lively, busy place. Nice to be back at my quiet camp. Everything was in need of drying, and I was just too tired to cook. But still, I had a feast of homegrown cucumber, pre-cooked quinoa, tinned fish, fruitcake mush to pulp by our day's ride, and wine gum for dessert.
Thank you, Flora. Thank you, Henry, for getting me here. Hope you have a good rest. Night-night.
Ah, the sound of water boiling in a kelly kettle on a dry, bright morning.
It's not raining, and could even call this a bit of sunshine and maybe even a little bit of blue sky over there. So, second day, it's just gone 10 o'clock, waiting for all the other riders to turn up after their lovely break in a nice dry cosy hotel. We made it through the night, obviously. Here we are. Morning Henry, morning Flora. How are you today? All right. So they all brushed and saddled and everything. Saddle is still a bit wet and muddy from yesterday, but sure it'll dry out.
I established that I would be able to collect my van in the evening, so didn't need to transport all the luggage by horse. Flora only had her 2 saddlebags on, a big worry out of the way for the day. Again, we were setting off from a very busy road. Henry and Flora patiently waited whilst the other riders got their horses ready. Willie Leahy is doing these trail rides every summer from May to September since 1969.
I'm from Connemara.
And he worked out a fabulous route, which is mostly off-road, along small tracks and paths. We stopped for lunch in a forestry plantation. Unfortunately, they had just clear-felled the area where we stopped. Willie's horses rested in a circle tied together. I better kept Henry and Flora to the side because they were still getting to know all the others, and I didn't want them to be provoked or provoke an argument. Willie's assistant Lee had met us again with a jeep and brought the picnic.
So, second day was much better. We even had a bit of sunshine. The terrain was a bit easier, so that helped a lot. And I'm going to put up my tent soon and I go to bed. Oh, and there's another old abandoned building right here opposite a beautiful lake. I was able to pick up my van there from our starting point. So I got some dry shoes. How fantastic is that?
That evening, we stopped just beyond a village called Recess. The sun came out for a while and I enjoyed the horses' company just before sunset. It was sweet to watch how seriously Henry took the job of looking after his daughter Flora.
Hi Henry, hi Flora, you've discovered me now. Hi guys, alrighty. Now go on, hang out with the others, play. Yeah, go on.
He always kept close to her, making sure she wouldn't be bothered by any of the other horses.
Now, somebody else is coming. Do I eat up everything? No, That's my milk for the morning. That's a tea bag. Empty crisp package. No, that's an empty pot. There's nothing in it. Go away now. Everybody go. Hey. Don't eat my tent. Right, so let's try and get some water.
We continued along the dismantled railway line between Galway and Clifden, but soon came to a spot where the bridge had been dismantled too, so it was time for paddle in the stream. Again, I wish I could have filmed this, but I had my hands full with the 2 horses. Soon we reached Ballynahinch Estate, one of the rare places in Connemara with tall trees.
Nice tree. Wow.
And a big mansion. And a walled garden. And a wide lane enclosed by manicured lawn. Again, I had left my big package in the van, so Flora had relatively little to carry. We carried on and on along the old railroad. Parts of it tempted us into a canter. The amount of work that had gone into this railway line is mind-boggling. A massive embankment had been created straight through the bog for miles and miles. I just let Flora run along. And it was built so well in the late 19th century and carefully dismantled in 1935 that we can still enjoy the relatively dry track running along it today. The last stretch of our 3rd day ran right through the site near Ballyconneely, where once the Marconi radio station had been in the early 1900s. Vast areas in Connemara are still covered in turf, which is still cut and dried every year and used as fuel.
Do they? There, Henry.
Everything's damp and the camera's fogging up.
Day number 4 today. I spent last night sleeping in the back of the van. I just couldn't be bothered to put up the tent in the end. The horses are staying in this field here. And I'm gonna look for them right now. We're gonna ride to the beach today. The plan was to go swimming with the horses, but it looks a bit cold and chilly out there, so I might give that one a miss and just paddle about in the waves. Okay.
Flora and Henry enjoyed an extra portion of feed every morning as a treat on their holiday and also to keep energy and mineral levels up. Henry got a day off in the field, but Flora came out with me for a run around on one of the beautiful sandy beaches in Mannin Bay. It started raining again. Okay, it's important to get film footage all right, but I still shouldn't risk Flora dropping off the edge of a sand dune probably. And Flora loved it. She chased the wind and the other horses and overtook, so we were able to film them catching up with us. And then we did another gallop and another. What fun! Some were brave or mad enough to take their horses into deeper water. My excuse was the camera. I didn't want that to get wet, and someone had to film the whole scene. Back at the field, Henry was extremely happy to see us return. Day 4 in the evening, and I feel a bit like cheating because I booked myself into a bed and breakfast for the night. We got caught in very heavy rain on the beach and we all got completely soaked, and there's one more day of riding tomorrow, which I don't want to do in soggy clothes, so here they are, hanging up, drying out, hopefully. The coat is wet, the fleece is wet, the socks are wet, and riding pants are wet, and the boots are wet, and hopefully overnight they'll all dry out. Flora had broken her bridle on the beach, so that gave me something to do for the evening while sipping hot tea and watching the telly from my dry and comfy bed. Last day today, Friday morning, and what a lovely field they had for rest, right at the beach. It looks still a bit dark, no rain on the way I think, but I had a lovely restful night in my bed and breakfast, and yummy loads and loads of breakfast, so I am all up for the day, whatever it might bring, even if it's loads of rain, we'll enjoy it. Won't we, lads? We'll enjoy the last day. The beaches here are made of finely ground coral and seashells, which occasionally get stuck in the hoofs as well.
They were going to wage the war or something. But
before setting off on the last day's ride, I got another lift with Willie and Lee after moving my van to our final destination. This jeep had followed us along the whole trail. It contained picnic for the group, dry towels, farriery tools and spare horseshoes, which were needed regularly as Willie's horses seemed to make it a habit to leave their shoes in the wet bogs of Connemara. I got Flora's bridle fixed. Nothing that can't be fixed with orange baler twine. Flora didn't have to carry anything for the day, so she could enjoy just plodding alongside Henry after her energetic gallop yesterday. Connemara is so rocky, even rockier than where we live, and it is full of Connemara ponies. It only needs little distraction when riding with a horse in hand, and you end up nearly tied up in a knot. The trick is to unwind yourself and your riding horse as quickly as the horse in hand is turning the other way.
Flora, up, up.
We are nearly experts after 4 days. Some Connemara ponies just roam the hills freely, which are covered with beautiful heather and gorse in many places. And then we had our last picnic before climbing around the hill above Roundstone.
Can you Photoshop in OpenEye behind glasses?
I'm pretty impressed how well Flora and Henry managed this sometimes very rough terrain. Sure, we go off-road as well at home, but nothing like these rocky, boggy mountains. They strode on confidently and uncomplainingly for day after day. Well done, horses, I'm proud of you. And just before we got to the end of our ride, the sun came out in earnest, and the clouds broke and revealed a wonderful blue sky. So it does exist in Connemara. Home again, Winnie seemed happy to have us back.